Hello, Gina. Welcome to the Hoster program, and I'm just so pleased to have a conversation with you today. We've got Gina Cambridge with us today from Wanderlust Solo Women Tours. And just recently, Gina, I've been on a Facebook group where people have been talking about solo travellers, and it made me think about hosted accommodation and how we can best look after our solo travellers. And you're such the queen on the social media scene that I thought I'd give you a call and see whether or not you could give us some handy hints, because this is your market. But let's just get started by you introducing yourself and about your company. Thank you, Gina.
Yeah. Well, firstly, kia ora, and thank you for having me here, Donna. I was actually really rapt that you reached out and were interested to talk about this topic. So yes, I'm Gina, and I'm the founder of Wanderlust Solo Women Tours, which is based here on the beautiful Coromandel. We were just actually talking before the video about how I had to pivot in the last few years. I had only just started my passion business prior to things changing in the world, and I was doing retreats in Bali, and I had to change, and luckily enough I did beautiful weekend escapes here in my own backyard. I grew up in Pairo, which was amazing. So I hosted 23 retreats over the last couple of years, and then this year I managed to get back to Bali, and I'm on my third Bali retreat, which I head off next Sunday. So my thing is to facilitate women's travel experiences to build confidence and friendships through travel. So a lot of women, they want to travel, but just necessarily don't know where to start. They might not have a partner that's interested. They're a bit scared to do it alone. And they just need a little bit of that encouragement and support and a fun community to go and do some things that they might not have tried otherwise.
It's an interesting point to me, because in my head I was just thinking, oh, well, solo travel, you must be single, but not necessarily.
No, and I get that a lot because I have the word solo, but I use the term as solo means that you're having a solo internal experience. I suppose that there's a lot of women out there that have families and they're not necessarily alone, but they want to have these experiences and don't have anyone to have those experiences with. And again, going and doing them in a group, I suppose, is a bit of a contradiction, but it's a solo experience for you. Even though you may be doing it in a group, you don't know necessarily the people in that group. And it just facilitates the tools for then you to be able to go and have your own amazing experiences. And that could be even just in your own backyard, going to a concert or going out for dinner by yourself, because even little things like that, I've noticed women, some people miss out on a lot of things because they're just too scared to go and scared, again, covers a broad spectrum, to go and things alone. So they just don't. And that's quite sad that we miss out, or they're waiting, or they're trying to, organize that group of girlfriends and trying to get dates together, and when someone can get away and when someone can get a babysitter, and sometimes the logistics just ends up like, oh, we just can't do it.
It absolutely makes sense to me. So typically, say a domestic or a New Zealand retreat, how many days would that typically be?
Yeah, so the local ones here in New Zealand, I do it's like a long weekend. It's a Friday through to a Sunday. There's a couple of aspects to that. One is to make it accessible. So 2 nights away for most people is doable. They can swing that without having too much time off work, without having to, organise babysitters and all those sort of things. And also financially, I want to make them accessible in all forms. So having them slightly smaller makes them a little bit more financially accessible to women as well. So my New Zealand ones have only been the 2 nights, 3 days. For overseas like Bali, there's 7 nights, 8 days, because you're going so much further and you want to make the most of your time. And I always recommend that if someone's coming to do that they tack on a few extra days as well, so they can go and do their own thing in those last minute bits that they haven't got to do.
to get back to us, as far as hosted accommodation, but accommodation generally, how do your women normally experience their accommodation? How do they use it? What's important to you?
Yeah, so this comes from a personal level. I've done a lot of solo travel by myself. There's probably, depending on the experience, so like if you're coming to say a retreat experience versus just a solo adventure, so like a retreat experience, you definitely want that wow factor. And when I say that wow factor, it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be flashy. I mean, that wow factor could be walking into the lounge and just seeing the most amazing view, or I call it fluff. Walking into the lounge or your bedroom, and it's got beautiful, lovely, fluffy, nice cushions and nice decor, and you just feel nurtured. I suppose that's a really good word for it, is nurtured. So definitely, I think that wow factor. As far as solo travel adventures, that's part of it, but that's not always a priority. Privacy is a real, I think, in both cases, is a real important thing for female travelers, is having privacy, locks on bathrooms, good locks on just the accommodation in general. Curtains, so people can't see if they're getting changed and things like that, because I know, and they're very, very cool. You might have that really cool bath and it's got an amazing outlook. I know I've been to some, and you're going, I'm so in this beautiful private location, and then someone walks past or something, so just little things like that. Security, obviously, we touched on that just before, and I think just comforts that you might not have normally if you're treating yourself. That's the difference. I've been in some pretty budget accommodation on my solo travels. To me, if that's the case, clean bed, clean bathroom. That's all I need.
So, okay, so I get all of those. Is there one that really sticks out to you as this is a non-negotiable, it must be for every solo traveler, you must have this?
Cleanliness.
Okay.
Yeah, I think doesn't matter where you are, whether it's high end, low end. You feel comfortable if you walk into a bathroom or a room or your bed and get into bed and it's clean.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know what? That's a box that all of our hosted accommodation can easily tick. Just saying,
Yeah.
just putting it out there for you. So, is there a way that, as a hosted accommodation supplier, that we could really enhance? We do get solo travellers through. They're not with tours, they're FIT, so they're free independent travellers, just like you've travelled, obviously, before. Is there anything we could do that could really enhance their stay, do you think?
Yeah, I think a security, like having good lighting outside if they're coming home from dinner late at night or something like that. Easy access or understandable access. Sometimes if your host isn't there, just knowing how to get to the location easily. Also, is there public transport if they're not coming by their own car? And having maybe a welcome pack. So, which I know probably a lot of your hosts would already do, but it's great to have a welcome pack with, transport links, recommended places to eat, and also, if it's possible, ones to deliver, because again, some women aren't comfortable going out and eating alone, or offering some sort of that they can dine in some form, whether it's a goodie bag of, like a food bag, I suppose, is what I'm trying to think of. Those little things that would make you feel safe and nurtured, and having a friendly, happy, engaging and welcoming host. if you come in and your host is really engaging, going, I'm going to be there. If you need me, just contact this number. It makes you feel safe. And I think that's really important.
One of the things I was talking to my daughter about, who has travelled, and she said there was this thing around, so we checkouts at 10, and that's quite common in most of our accommodation. They actually still want to explore the area, and they have luggage there.
Yeah.
So things like offering luggage, maybe just to store it for them for the day. How important is those?
100%. So
100%,
important.
yeah.
I'm having this experience for myself and my net. When I come back from Bali, I'm actually stopping over in Singapore, and our flight is an overnight one, so we've got to check out, and then we've got the whole day to explore. So being able to leave your luggage in a safe place and maybe just take your day bag is really, really important. So if you can offer that, I think that's really, really valuable service to your guests.
Yeah, that's it. It's something that I've got it in my compendium, but I've never really highlighted it. And I think, well, it's a valid point, and I certainly will let certainly my solo travellers realise that they can if they just still want to walk around. In fact, anybody.
Yeah.
But just going back to the security and safety, is there any tips you've got around for us as hosted accommodation to help? That you've talked about the outside security light. I wonder too, for our city hosts, whether should you highlight places where it's not so safe for them to walk around alone?
Oh,
how do you feel about that?
That's such a hard one, because you don't want to instill fear. I always say trust your gut when traveling. New Zealand has changed as far as safety is concerned. I would rate it the same as any other international destination. I don't think you should travel anywhere with a false sense of security. I wouldn't highlight areas of not being safe, because I won't go into specifics, but just certain recent events up in our CBD here in Auckland. What area are you going to say safe and what's not? So rather than saying this area is not safe, is maybe just highlighting tools. I think communication, like saying, if you need a driver, we've got this driver, you can contact them. Or if you need us at any time and you feel unsafe, here's a number to ring. I think communication is probably going to be the best and safest thing. As a solo traveler, you have to take responsibility. As a host, you only can do so much and provide so much, especially outside of your bubble.
Yes, yeah.
So it's on the guest to take a certain sense of responsibility for their own safety. And it also comes down to the logistics of where the accommodation is. Like, some places it might be quite accessible for them to say, hey, we can chaperone you home after dinner or something like that if it's just down the road. But then other places aren't going to be able to do that. So, yeah, it's just finding that balance, and just, like I said earlier, just finding that being warm and engaging and letting your guests know that you're there for them, I suppose, is the best way you're going to instill some form of safety for your hosted accommodation.
I like that, Gina. That's a good answer, because I think that's exactly how we should all be anyway. But I think that's a good positive way to do it, that open communication and giving people other forms of communication if you're not available. If you're out for dinner or out with friends, then this guy could pick you up with this is the people we would recommend, or company that we would recommend.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for that. That was a good answer. The amenities, we're great at providing amenities in our hosted accommodation. Sometimes I think some of our hosts go too far because they're cutting into their profit. But are there any amenities that you think would be super duper good for solo travellers that should be included in any package?
I love all the little extras, and I don't, anyone who says they don't would be lying. So maybe I think especially when sustainability is really important these days, or, making sure your toiletries or any things you offer like that are sustainable or eco-friendly. I think a lot of travelers are getting more aware of that. I know I love that. So little things like that. I'm just trying to think of places I've been. Oh, one hotel I went to, and they've got a really good sustainability policy, but they had just had a little card on the bed, and it's because a lot of places are going into this. It might not be all your host, but not like washing towels and stuff every day. So if you're happy using your towels, hang them up here. If you want them washed, put them in the shower or something like that. But giving an explanation why. I think if you understand the why behind a lot of these practices, but I think as a solo female traveler, just having treats, they're always lovely. A nice, comfy bed. If you can offer tea and coffee facilities, that's really, really good as well.
No, that's good. Before we started on this call, we only briefly touched on it, and I haven't put it in my list of questions that I sent to you, but rates. That was something that came up, and this is what sort of started me on the whole solo traveler, focusing on that for this week. But what do you think? Should we be giving our solo travelers a different rate?
Yeah.
Obviously, the impact on our accommodation is actually still the same. It's we're still paying for the same cleaning, just about the same breakfast, really. Everything is still there. But what, from your perspective, do you see many places offering a single rate and a twin share rate?
I suppose some confusion even for those booking is the difference between a room rate and a per person rate. So if you have a flat room rate, whether there's one or two people in it, the rate's the same, versus having a room and it's X rate, or if there's two people, it's less for each person. But so either it's probably better to have a room rate, because then it's just clearer for a solo travel. And then they're not saying, oh, but if I was with someone else, it would be cheaper for me, just off the bat, looking at it visually. It is a hard one, because I understand the logistics for running accommodation, and there's costs for the provider, regardless of how many people stay in the room. We still got to, change the sheets on the bed and the towels and all those sorts of things. If you could offer even an incentive, even if it's not necessarily a financial one, but some sort of incentive for a solo traveler. I don't know what, obviously that would vary between the accommodation providers, but even a little incentive to encourage, say, okay, you not necessarily say it, but you're paying the same rate, but we can offer this service or something.
Some add-ons, some benefits.
That might weigh it up. For you, you're not, as the host provider, you might not necessarily having to be shelling out extra money, but then it looks enticing to a solo traveler, because yes, I'd love cheaper rates for solo travelers, but the reality of it, you've still got to cover your costs. So some sort of incentive, I think, is maybe the happy medium.
No, that's good. Thank you. So we're hosted accommodation. You're a tour company or a tour business. How could we collaborate together if some of our hosts are listening to you and thinking, actually, I could tick quite a few of Gina's boxes and would love to work with her? What would you need, and what would you need to hear from anybody that would like to work with you?
Yeah. So just some things I've found when I go to search accommodation. And obviously say, as the tour provider, you need X guests. So I'll just use like the number 6, for example. So you're hosting 6 guests, and then there's yourself. So you've got to sleep somewhere too. I can sleep anywhere. So the host doesn't have to have a flash room. But you'll look up something and it might say, sleep 6 or whatever, but they're actually only 3 queen beds.
Mm-hmm.
If you can financially get I know they're not necessarily ideal, but the split kings, singles, so you can transform your one room into either a twin share or a double. That's hugely beneficial, and I know that from a lot of other retreat hosts, it's the same thing they come across. If you can, because from our perspective, it's better to offer a twin share room. Otherwise, if you want a private room, which a lot of guests want, you're going to need more rooms, obviously, and then the cost goes up. So if you can find a balance between a split of private rooms and twin share rooms, it balances it out financially. So that's really important, and rooms that are equal. So if you offer one, from my point of view, selling, I've got X price either, say, for a private room or a twin share. If one of the private rooms is the master with an ensuite and a beautiful view, and the other private room is just a single room, like a kid's room, just for an example, most women are pretty good, but there's going to be that little thing she got the flash room with the private bathroom. So I think, having consistency in your rooms, if possible, is really, really important when you've got larger groups, whether it's me or a retreat or any other tour group. And a communal area is really important, an area where we can come together for dinner or come together for activities. And also, if you have an outside area that you can come together for activities, especially going into summer, is really important. And an outside area that maybe has a pergola or some sort of roof, because it's obviously so hot. I know that's a lot to ask, but in a perfect world, that would be really lovely.
I can already think of some of our hosts that have that type of accommodation that I just know will tick every box for you, because it's one of the things that we're quite hot on, is that people do with their room, they have an ensuite. And if they don't have an ensuite, then if they're sharing a bathroom, that usually they know each other. But in your case, that might not be such a big issue.
Yeah,
Gina,
and I think touching on that, and that's probably the point of difference when it's a family group or a group of friends. You don't mind bunking in the same bed or sharing the bathroom. When it's a tour group or a retreat group, the people don't necessarily know each other, and that's where the privacy aspect comes in, and it's quite important that the logistics change just a little bit when it's a hosted group like that.
Are you okay with people that are watching this video to contact you if I put your contact details down in the comments below?
Oh, love to. I really love supporting local businesses, especially here on the Coromandel. It's where I was, raised and brought up. So I love to do more here on the Coromandel Peninsula and share where we live. But in saying that, any hosted providers, I've got requests for the South Island. So anywhere, especially if you've got cool activities, that are around you or close by, or you can provide on site, that's even more beneficial.
Yeah, look, I can think of some on the North Island that will blow your socks off. So, I will be reaching out to them, saying you need to watch this video and contact Gina. Gina, look, I wish you all the best for the coming season. It's looking like it's going to be not only hot in weather, but hot in travellers, and certainly our international travellers. So hopefully us Kiwis are also travelling for you as well. And good luck with your upcoming Bali tour. I know you'll be super busy trying to organise everything with that. So thank you for taking the time today. And I just wish you all the best for this coming season. As I said, thank you so much for joining me today.
And thank you, Donna. It's been really good, and it's lovely to share perspectives of travel and how hosts can benefit for solo travellers. So thank you.
Pleasure.